Today I'm cooking some smoked pulled beef enchiladas. I'm going to smoke a chuck roast. I'm going to then braise it until it's nice and tender. I'm going to pull it and build out these enchiladas. But first, I'm going to share this really simple, easy to make enchilada sauce. Let's get started. Let's make the sauce. Here are the ingredients you will need. I'll make sure to list them in the description box below. You're also going to need 2 teaspoons of Knorr seasoning. I'm using tomato bouillon. I'm going to dissolve it in about 2 cups of water. Next, we'll want to hydrate our peppers. Place your de-seeded, de-stemmed peppers in a pot of boiling water. Add your onion and garlic as well. Cover and let it simmer for about 10 minutes. In a blender, you will add the hydrated peppers, onion, and the garlic you boiled. Next, add in the tomato bouillon you dissolved in the 2 cups of water, along with our dry ingredients. 1 teaspoon of oregano, 1/4 teaspoon of cumin, salt, and pepper. You will also use about a cup of the water you used to hydrate the peppers. Blend well. Next, you will want to strain the mixture into a container. In its current state, the sauce is very watery. I'll be thickening it up later when it comes time to build out the enchiladas. One thing you'll want to do is save the pulp that you strain. I'm going to be using it later to impart even more flavor onto the chuck roast. Now, besides enchiladas, you could use this stuff on tacos. I've used it on nachos, quesadillas, but what you really want to use it on are on some burritos to make a wet style burrito or mojado style. But for now, let's start up that charcoal, prep the chuck roast, and let's start cooking. For the chuck roast, I'm going to be using a salt, pepper, garlic mix. 2 parts salt, 2 parts pepper, and 1 part garlic. I have a 4-pound chuck roast here that I'm going to season well with the SPG mix. Make sure to cover all sides. I'm going to impart even more flavor by adding some of that chili pulp I saved earlier. I'm going to water it down with a bit of beef broth. I'll be painting some of this mixture on both sides of the chuck roast. I'm going to be using my Weber Jumbo Joe, loaded up with the slow and sear basket. For the smoke flavor, I'm also adding some apple chunks at the bottom. For fuel, I'm going to be using Jealous Devil charcoal. This is my first time using it, but I'm sure it'll work out. The briquettes are nice and big. I'm dropping about 6 briquettes to get the SNS started. I want to run the Jumbo Joe between 250 and 275. To add a bit of moisture and to maintain proper temperatures, I'm placing a bit of hot water on the grate. I'm going to cover and let it slowly get up to temperature. For my vent settings, I'm setting the top vent to half open and the bottom vents I have about 1/4 open. I find that at these settings, my Jumbo Joe likes to set in between 250 and 270. Once the temps have settled, I'll be placing the chuck roast and get this cooking. I'm not going to cook the chuck roast fully during this time. It's mainly so it picks up a bit of smoke flavor. The other thing I'm going to be doing is placing a temperature probe to monitor temps. Since this is my first time using this charcoal, I want to keep a close watch on these temperatures. I'm going to be braising it once the chuck roast has developed some good bark. This usually happens when the internal temperature hits about 140. About 2 hours in, and this chuck roast is ready to braise. I'm going to braise this chuck roast with half an onion, a few cloves of garlic, and mix some of that remaining chili pulp I reserved earlier. I'll be adding it with some beef broth. The chuck roast has picked up some good flavor and some good color. I'm going to cover it with foil and put it in the oven. Now normally I would be putting it in the Weber kettle, but the Jumbo Joe is a little small and the pan foil won't fit in there, so I'm going to throw it in the oven. Since it's covered in foil, it's not going to pick up any additional flavor anyway, so it's fine. I'm setting my oven to 275 degrees and I'm going to let that chuck roast cook for about 2 to 3 hours until it's nice and tender. The Jealous Devil charcoal worked really good. There was still plenty of fuel to have let it run for a couple more hours. I'm looking forward to experimenting with this on other cooks. Now it's time to pull this chuck roast. You will want to remove any big chunks of fat that you might find. This is fine eating all by itself, and this would be great on sandwiches, but we got other plans for this pulled beef. I'm going to add some of that liquid back into the meat, which off camera I have removed most of the fat from the liquid. Now it's time to thicken up the enchilada sauce. Add a bit of oil to a pan and maybe about 2 or 3 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. Mix well until it turns into a light brown color. Now add some of the sauce we made. Make sure you add a little bit at a time and mix it well. Sauce should thicken up nicely. Let it boil and turn the heat down. Make sure to taste. I'm adding a bit of pepper, salt, and a little ancho chili powder. I'm also adding some cayenne pepper because I like spicy sauce. Always taste and make sure that you add more of the ingredients you enjoy. In a separate pan, add some oil and heat it up. We will use this to fry up our tortillas. After a couple of seconds, you will want to flip it over. Keep flipping it. The consistency you're looking for here is for the tortilla to harden up a bit, but still be pliable and bendable. This is perfect. Make sure to shake off any excess oil. Dip it into the enchilada sauce. Make sure to coat both sides evenly. Remove it from the pan and put it off to the side. To avoid making a big mess, I'm going to get 4 or 5 of these ready to stuff and wrap. Same procedure as before. To speed things up, use a bigger pan so you can do 2 or 3 tortillas at a time. Same process as before. Coat both sides evenly with the sauce. The frying part is important, so the tortillas don't come out too mushy. Please note how the tortillas are a bit hard. The sauce will soften them back up. Once coated, put them off to the side with the rest. Now for the fun, messy part of wrapping. Get yourself your baking dish. The stuffing and wrapping is pretty easy, but it can be very messy. So this is why I do the tortilla fry and sauce dip in batches. This way I can also do the wrapping a few enchiladas at a time. Let's do another one. Add in our pulled smoked beef, wrap, and you're finished. I did a small batch here, but usually I like to get a bunch of these done to feed the whole family. But today is just my dinner and some leftovers for tomorrow. Let's drizzle a bit more sauce on top. Now my favorite part, let's add some cheese. You can never forget the cheese. I've shredded some cheddar and some Monterey. Keep adding that cheese. Cheese, 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 and more cheese. If you're enjoying this video so far, please hit like and subscribe. It really helps out a lot. And if you made it this far in the video, thank you very much. Channels like this that are just barely starting out, it really helps me out. So I can't thank you guys enough. So now that you subscribed, I'm gonna add some more cheese. I'll be wrapping these with foil and I'll put it in the oven for 15 to 30 minutes. The oven is set to 350 degrees and I'll take out when the cheese melts nicely. Boom, now it's time to enjoy these enchiladas. I know it's been a pretty long cook today, but I'm sure these enchiladas are gonna be worth the wait. Let's try it out. I'm gonna take a big chunk out of this here. Wow. These are really good. It's got really good flavor. If you've never tried smoking a chuck roast and making enchiladas with it, go for it. I mean, enchilada is already my favorite food, but that smoke flavor, that barbecue flavor that you get, it's amazing stuff. I know it might seem like a lot of work, but you could pre-prep a lot of these ingredients. You can make a couple chuck roasts, pull it, put it in the freezer, so whenever you're craving enchiladas, you can make some. The sauce as well, you could make a big batch of that stuff. You could easily freeze it. It's up to you how you want to use it, but it's really nice having some enchilada sauce in the freezer, so whenever you're craving enchiladas, you can take it out and make yourself a batch. Keep in mind that you don't have to use them on enchiladas. You'll want to use it on tacos, on nachos, quesadillas, but like I mentioned earlier too, is you really want to use this to make a wet style burrito, mojado style burrito. And that's it. I'll see you guys next time. Just gonna eat this whole thing.